All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Rugby Muscle Coaches React. Today, couldn't help it. The Lions is coming this summer. As of recording, it's a month away, and they are starting to release some really good footage of just how their camp is going. And as you know, as fans, we get to see really good insights into what they're trying to build and how they're trying to go about doing that. Also, Alex is with us. Alex, what's going on, mate?
Hey, friend. Yeah, that's good.
So this one is the first one where we've actually got an insight to the first one. The episode 1 was just meet and greet and the stash handout, which is very important, but not anything that we as fitness coaches can react to or strength and conditioning coaches can react to. This one, however, gets a good bit of fitness in. So I thought, as rugby players will search for this and they'll see the fitness stuff and they'll potentially think this is a good idea for us to incorporate in our training. We want to give it a bit more context because there's only so much they can do when they've got this short film to make. Whereas us, all we do is focus on the strength and conditioning side of the rugby. So let us go and do that now. So they've arrived in Jersey.
It was very difficult
to skip actually to the fitness part. So bear with me as we find just a bit about it, putting the young guy in the forefront.
Jersey is nice as well, mate.
Sorry?
So Jersey's nice.
Yeah, I've played in Jersey once and lost.
Oh.
Yeah, we lost to Jersey. Here we go. So we're getting straight into the gym stuff. So
we've got the boys together for the first time. Obviously, we don't just focus on the physical aspect.
This guy, Bobby Strigen, is a bit of a legend as far as like rugby strength and conditioning goes. Actually, just as far as like rugby coaches go, and I think this is an element he'll keep going on these tours, and you'll see him prop up a lot on these videos. And if you've watched any of the older Lions documentaries, you'll see him pop up a lot because he's just a really good character. And if you're enjoying your time, like you're going to train better. He's just seems like a really good dude. So like coaches that are watching this should definitely take a lot out of the fact that this guy is pretty much at the pinnacle of, or he is at the pinnacle of rugby strength and conditioning. And listen to the way he talks, listen to the technical stuff that he talks about, but listen to how he talks to the lads. It's like really informative and something really cool to pay attention to. But this isn't to say that he's not very good at the science or he's not knowledgeable about the actual strength and condition side of things. It's just that, like, at the end of the day, coaching, whatever it is about communication. Because if if whoever you're coaching doesn't listen to what you're saying and something gets lost on the way in, it's pointless. So I thought I want to put that one out there because shout out to Bobby Strigen. He's a good guy.
Aspect is about the mental aspects as well. So we want to make a team as quickly as we can. So a lot of stuff we've done has been in as big groups in the gym as we can, with COVID allowing. Big groups in anything that we do, obviously training all together. So from that mental aspect, it's about making the team work as a team, getting used to training with each other, being in each other's company. From a playing aspect, some boys have been playing regularly, some boys haven't played for a few weeks. So we've got to.
Any thoughts on this so far? Or did you see any of the movements here that tickled your pickle?
So, yeah, there's a few. There's some reasonably heavy squats, which is cool to find.
Obviously, we don't.
Because for me, it's interesting to do an overhead movement. I assume that's just like part of the warm up, right?
Yeah. So here's what the context that we have to put to this, and I put it at the beginning of this video. It's something that's got to be re-emphasized time and time again. That's John Clark in the background, so he must be part of it as well. We said this with the England reaction video, but even more so with this, you've got guys that could be on any sort of program year round, like they could be developing whatever aspect of fitness as a primary goal, or they could just be maintaining. They're also coming off the back of what has been a brutal season. Like it's been fairly condensed, but it's also been kind of like a season and a half. And now they're even extending that out. And they've got 4 weeks from now, or 4 or 5 weeks from this video to prepare to go and play the Springboks. So, you know, I don't think that in that 4 weeks you're going to revolutionize, especially when you've got athletes that are already at their peak. You're not going to make them like much stronger or more powerful. You're not going to really make any difference really in that time. And that's something that I keep emphasizing with Rugby Muscle and keep emphasizing over and over again, is the lack of importance of one single session or one single week compared to the overall, you know, thing that we're trying to build with a program. And especially with these guys, like they're already, you know, they've made the Lions squad. So
they're all right.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, you know, he needs to get stronger. Like he's as strong as he needs to be to make the fucking Lions, you know? So most of this stuff is just going to be at best top up. And even so, it could be a lot of, especially this week, and probably as the weeks go on, there's probably going to be even lower than maintenance and sort of, you know, what we would call a peaking protocol, where they would actually drop volumes all the way down, because their biggest thing is that they want to do is make sure that the guys aren't fatigued going into what is also going to be a massive schedule with the games that you've got to play. You know, because it's not just the 3 test matches that, you know, as part of the tour, you've got to play lots of games beforehand. I think it's weekend and then Wednesdays as well. And yes, you know, on paper you can say, oh, we'll lose. We don't mind losing all of those games, and then winning a test series, which is true, but that's just not the way competitors think. Plus, you're still going to get the impact and the fatigue from those games, regardless of if you give a shit about winning or losing. So,
I mean, when did O'Driscoll break his collarbone, right? That was one of the first tests. There wasn't a...
Yeah. And I mean, and there's also plenty of casualties before the first tests even happen, you know? So, so you're not going to get anything. It's like, it's just general movement. If anything, like you could read into it about how basic this stuff is. Like there's, you know, and you can also read into it that what he's just said there is togetherness, because they've got 4 different guys coming in from 4 different nations trying to, you know, play their best and be a team. And that togetherness is like the biggest challenge pretty much that you're going to overcome, because it's not talent. It's not being fit or strong enough. It's having that all of that talent of 4 nations combined to make a team that's going to go and do a job. All right, let's get
some boys haven't played for a few weeks. So what we're going to try and do is get everyone the same. So we're working boys hard.
That's also a really good point, right? Is that they're coming, like we said about their program, but they're also like, some of these guys would have just played a real tough match last week. Some of these guys might have not even played a game for a few weeks or even months. So, you know, they're all going to be at completely different stages in their program. And that's probably why they've got, I think they've got 3 or 4 strength and conditioning coaches, like high level conditioning coaches going on this tour.
They've been in each of the company. From a playing aspect, some boys have been playing regularly, some boys haven't played for a few weeks. So what we're going to try and do is get everyone the same. So we're working boys hard.
Nice. Hey, what's going on there? Just occlusion.
See a bit of that occlusion training.
Just warming my knees up. Yeah.
Oh, the other Suji stuff. That's the,
yeah.
So for this guy, he's got his Suji bands on, which are it's just a brand that I was helping out stuff with.
Oh yeah.
And he's got like patella tendon kind of issues, and he says this helps him out all the time. So he just does the BFR stuff before every single session, every match.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think with the like tendon issues, it is a loading thing, but it's more a volume thing than it is a loading thing, right? Like you want to like load you want to build some strong tendons, but you can't just pound them and pound them and pound them, because then they will ache and then break.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's, you know, manual resistance, because when it's occlusion, it's not a science. I mean, it's a science, but you're not really getting into the numbers too much. And the guy was just giving him manual resistance, which is like, that's a leg extension right there.
Just warming my knees up. Yeah.
Trap bar jump in the background. Pay attention to the weight on that trap bar. Like one
Super
big mistake
light.
I see.
Yeah, super light.
I see so many people load up trap bars and jump with them.
Yeah. Yeah, boy. You all right?
Good.
we've had.
I really
It's
hope
interesting he was doing a curl.
I really hope that he didn't jump with that.
The band on.
Trap bar. Well, no, with the trap bar.
Oh.
Just as we said about how
Yeah.
to don't use the heavy stuff, and then he put it was not
Like
90 because the trap
landing on
bar's heavy. Yeah. Who's doing a curl? He's doing extension.
Vandermeer was doing a hamstring curl at the same time.
Oh, perfect. I like that.
He was pulling it.
So that
Yeah,
would be
resistant
prepping his
curl.
hamstring
Yeah, it's
tendon
nice,
as well. Why not?
Yeah. You know what's interesting here
Had,
is that
two
an
training
absolute
sessions
budget of
today,
belts.
which has been
So it's not like
fantastic.
they got all like the best stash or anything.
A belt, well, this goes back to what we've discussed a few times before, is that these guys aren't power lifters. Is he wearing it upside down as well?
Yeah, yeah.
But like, these guys aren't going to need a deluxe Inzer belt to lift their max thing. They just need something to put a bit of compression or to put a bit of pressure against to engage them. That's it,
We've had 2 training sessions today, which has been fantastic. We've just been ironing out a few more sessions to come.
Are you right-handed? Like an absolute dog dinner.
So then they go through a bit of training, real light stuff. Like, this is so cool because I think
It's like
how basic hands is this stuff that they work on when they do like the lighter sessions, and these are the things that like amateurs miss out on because you've only got your 2 sessions a week, and that stuff's just got to be spent on like real important stuff. But if you have time, like just doing basic handling and skill work, like
first day of school, go try really hard for good with pressure. Enjoy this.
It's just basics, right? Just doing the basics super well.
We've got to get a lot of intensity into our training. Obviously, from a coaching perspective, the coach have got to get a lot of detail in. So we've got to teach the boys the moves, our pattern, how we want to play the game. From a physical aspect for us, we're going to work at intensity, try and get the boys' condition levels as high as we can before we get to South Africa.
Got your sessions done.
So I imagine that's what they're trying to do now, is that the mini camp starts and is intense, and then they'll lower the intensity when they first get to South Africa and drop their fatigue there, which, I mean, that makes sense. And that gets everyone at the fatigue stage. It's easier to get the people that have, there's some people that still aren't in the camp at this stage because they've still got another game to play. Yeah. So where they're at is, they're all at a stage where they want to just peak their fitness now, and then they can alleviate fatigue and then just manage it from there on in to cope with that schedule. But if they let their fitness drop now, it's hard to sort of build up into the tests. So it totally makes sense that they want to peak it now, and then they go into that sort of drop the volume, drop the intensity a bit, and then they just tap on lots of low intensity stuff, and then just a few spats of real high intensity to simulate matches and get them prepped and have them peak for when the games are gonna happen.
Shakes over there, cryo's just over there.
It was tough. We went from 30 degrees down into -81 into the cryo ice chamber, which was
shakes and cryo. The shakes
screaming like. It wasn't nice.
Spot on recovery, like the fact that they don't have to think about it. They're just getting the calories in, they're getting the protein in. Good. Cryo. What are your thoughts on cryo, mate?
So from a recovery perspective, like if you think it works, right? As in terms of like shifting into a more power state. In terms of like what it actually does, I think if we can lower central temperature, I think there's a recovery benefit to that. For sure. I think it's not the wonder drug or wonder magic pill that people that are trying to sell you cryo stuff will make you think. But I think that's exactly. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Lowering overall body temperature, like just not being overheated, is a fucking really good thing. Well, exposing yourself to the cold has potential benefits, right? But it's more about getting you out of that overheated state, which is going to put you in a good stage to then start your recovery. It's a similar thing to, it's the opposite of sauna, where sauna is putting you into a heated state, which is why you shouldn't really go into the sauna straight after a session if you're looking for recovery. You can do it, but it has to at different times. But the real thing is, if you feel like it's helping you,
as far as recovery goes, it is helping you. Like that's the mind over matter, as they say, or whatever.
So generally the pre-chamber is -80 degrees
Well, within
C.
reason.
You go in the pre-chamber for 30 seconds to
Within
get
reason.
you ready. So it's not a big shock going from room temperature. You do 30 seconds in there and then you go in the main chamber.
If you do something that is not going to negatively affect you and you think it works, then it helps. If you do something like, well, we'll see what else they do for recovery.
So it helps us recover from exercise, and one of the main things is that it cools your blood vessels, so you get vasoconstriction of the blood vessels, so the blood vessels become smaller, and then when you go outside and walk around or do some light spin bike, and then blood vessels open, and then there's a flush effect, so you get some new blood there. So from any contact, we may have some small injuries. Obviously it helps with that because it flushes new blood to that area. The boys, just so you know, the boys wear a mask in there. They wear a headband which cover their ears. They wear gloves, they wear clogs, and they wear shorts, and they wear socks up to the knees. So you do look quite stupid going in there.
The other thing with that is that it's like, you remember what we just said about where they are in their season. They're going to be pushing themselves during these next few weeks, or at least these next couple of weeks, with the fitness. So they want to cram in as much training, and especially with being from four different countries, they want to cram in as much training, as much high intensity stuff as they can. So the more, anything they can do to help them feel better and recover, the better. If they're in an off season, like that's where we say no to the ice stuff, because that actually, it can cut the fatigue a little bit, but at the expense of the training effect that you want to get. Whereas these guys aren't trying to get stronger or anything right now. They're just trying to, as we say, maintain. Also see this as another opportunity to do some team bonding, because it's, you get all the different guys in together and they'll have a chat. Something we did with Poland a lot was we'd go in the sauna. Here we go, altitude training, mate.
That's a Pinot. Fuck this.
So first and foremost, what they're using are not, like, they're so far away from the stupid altitude masks that people wear in the gym. They're actually mimicking altitude. They're not just restricting the amount of total air that you can get passing through a filter. It's actually it's a different mechanism by which it mimics altitude, right?
Yep.
So really important note that even any of this, like, is not the common altitude mask that you can buy for $40 or whatever and look like a bit of a knobhead down the gym that people do. And I would apologize for people not knowing better, but they should know better by now. Don't wear altitude masks in the gym. Unless they're these. Yeah.
And then playing at altitude later. We've got repeat sprint hypoxia. So basically, the machine set to about 3,500 meters. It gives you the same oxygen that you get at that height.
We've got a few games.
Brutal.
3.5. See, from being in America, I only know feet. So all I know is altitude is brutal. Real important here is they're playing at altitude,
so
right?
When we're playing Joburg, as soon as we get there, we'll go back down to Cape Town sea level, and then we go back to Joburg for a couple of the tests. We've got to address that with the boys. There's a few altitude chambers that we've been...
So it's not just a mechanism to try and get them fitter in general. This is really something that they've got to emphasize because they're playing in games at altitude.
And more used to how shit it's going to feel.
Yeah, well, especially because they're working that high intensity stuff at that, like short bursts of high. They're just getting them ready for it. They're also doing a lot of stuff not with altitude masks. Everything else prior to this.
So the boys get on the watt bike, and then that simulates the oxygen at altitude. So we have it on about 12.5, 13% oxygen reduction, which roughly equates to about 3,500 meters. So with the boys, we do repeat sprint hypoxia, it's called. 6-second sprint with 24 seconds rest. We do a set of 6 of that.
Ooh, that's brutal. 6 seconds, because it's brutal, because that's just like, you can go really, really, really hard. Download the rugby conditioning guide or the 50 sessions in the link below. You'll see that some of the stuff we do is 6 to 7 seconds, because you can go all out for that time. 24 seconds is a very, very short recovery to then go again.
And then repeat that set really twice with 2 minutes break between sets. It doesn't sound long, it's 12 minutes start to finish, but it's pretty tough for the boys, obviously with a reduced amount of oxygen that they're receiving. We've used this in Wales extensively. That mimics like rugby really well as well, like that. 6 on, 24 off, and then you're done in 12 minutes.
Well, just
go on.
Go back to the bit where they're on the bike. You just see that they've got a
between sets
blow oxygen saturation one.
Doesn't sound long, it's 12 minutes.
Oh yeah, so then they
which is really cool, because it means that
they're really monitoring it.
Yeah, they means they can call it at the right time. Yeah, that's really cool. That's a really good idea, and it stops it getting dangerous, right?
Yeah, you know, as we've let's see
to finish
it's pretty what tough he for said the boys, about the whole
obviously
thing.
With a reduced amount of oxygen that they're receiving. We've used this in Wales extensively with the boys, even when we're playing at sea level, and we've had some good results both anecdotally and with fitness testing as well. So the boys feel that it's good for them, but also when we fitness tested the boys, we found that the fitness tests improve compared to someone who hasn't done any altitude training. So for us, it ticks both boxes for us. It gets the players in a better mental state to play at altitude, and obviously physically better to perform at the best at altitude. So what the boys feel is, they feel that obviously they're getting a reduced amount of oxygen, so it's quite claustrophobic, especially with...
you know, with that last point, I want to go back on what he was saying about that they've used it even to compete better at sea level, and sort of carry on from what I was saying before, is that they're doing these short sessions probably maybe once a week, maybe more, to top up everything else, or to go on top of everything else that they're doing without oxygen deprivation. The big argument against altitude training masks is because it reduces the intensity that you can train at, like if you consistently reduce the intensity that you can train at, that means you're actually going to get you're going to fall for, what's the word I'm looking for? Regression. Like you're going to you've got progressive overload, but you've also got the opposite. So if you're consistently working at a lower intensity, lower output than what you were before, your body's going to adapt to that and say, okay, we don't need these high adaptations. We don't need to perform this high level. We're going to drop back down. And so you actually get weaker, slower, less fit, whatever it is, whatever's compromised by you wearing the mask, your body will accommodate that and you will end up regressing because of that. Whereas if you're just doing that as one session a week, like maybe a couple sessions a week, like you're doing all your other stuff, it's not going to negatively affect you. And as he said, it's actually appears to have positively affected them. So I wanted to sort of say something negative about this, but you can't and of course you can't. Like, these are the fucking this is the real top level of rugby, where of professional rugby, where it's at. And there's a lot of research and there's a lot of money and
very smart boys, right?
Yeah,
very smart boys.
These are the best people doing the best.
We do a set of 6 of that, and then we repeat that. But it's in Wales, extensive totally to the boys.
Really like
both boxes for us.
People just doing this session in a better without the oxygen stuff on would benefit massively as well. That session will be brutal, and that will work your high output
mental state to play at altitude. Feel that.
Yeah. I do repeat
that replicates that, so controlling the breathing for the boys as well, which is a big thing for us. But all we do just a lot of this is
trying
to do with the altitude. But I've never put the benefits
I've never put the rest all the way down to 24, because I find that intensity drops so fast.
So we'll get 4 sessions.
Yeah, I use a minute.
We've got 1 on Tuesday, 1 today. We'll have 1 tomorrow.
Oh, here we go.
And then we'll have 1 on Monday. So the boys will have 4 sessions.
Jesus.
Before we leave for South Africa.
Sounds about right to me.
When we get there.
Yeah, actually, that does make sense. They've still got time between them. It's just
drop it down after that, right?
Yeah, like we said, they're in that overreaching phase. Like, they're really trying to push them. Like, why not? Really good.
As well, but they're all going to be great at recovering.
Yeah, and again, they're just doing these are the only, like, they're not playing rugby and doing everything else at the high intensity, and they're already fit as they can be. So this is just to really get them accommodated for the like, that's their biggest challenge with this one, is to get them accommodated for playing in Johannesburg, playing at altitude. Last little bit, recovery, and this is about as good a recovery as you get, right? Boys just chilling.
In terms of the mental recovery,
I'll stop if there's anything else.
Some activities for them to do, and the weather just held off for us, so it was a great day. We had some boys managed to get some buggies and go on the local golf course.
Do you ever play golf?
I used to. When I was an accountant, I used to take clients out.
My brother's a pro golfer. Shout out to James Jankowski Golf, or whatever his Instagram is.
Is he?
Yeah, he does what I do for rugby, but not strength and conditioning. But he
That's
does what
cool.
Yeah, banter. This stuff is perfect. It's getting them out. It's getting them relaxed, but not lazy. Like, they're out and about and they're moving. Their mind's off rugby, but they're still moving. They're not just vegging and you know, they're all, and they're bonding together as lads. But they're moving, but they're not doing anything like overly, like, you see when people stress about recovery, it is the opposite of what recovery really is. Really good stuff. Awesome. Shout outs to the fucking British Lions, man. Let's go do it. Let's go to South Africa.
Right.
Guys, let us know in the comments below if you want us to react to anything else with this upcoming tour. We're all pumped. Let us know. Predictions. What do you think? Do you think this is good stuff from the Lions? Do you think that they're going to go and smash the South Africans? I know the Boks are definitely very defensive about that, but I also know that they lost in the only northern hemisphere v southern hemisphere rugby we've seen has been the Italian team, Benetton beating the Blue Bulls in the Rainbow Cup final last week. So if that's an omen for what's going to happen, if that's an omen for what's going to happen on this tour, us Brits are going to really enjoy it. So without further ado, we'll end this one here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.